Happy Sunday, everybody. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. I really wanted to, I was excited. I'm excited for this week, and I'm excited to be here with you all today. I really, really wanted to share some things today about the show and also um, jump into what we're going to be talking about today. All right. So, right now, I have discovered what the purpose and point of the Faded podcast is, at least for me. For me, it's eternal value. I heard this expression this morning, and I couldn't quite put into short term words what the podcast means to me. But eternal value, I think, fits. I think it really, really fits. The reason why I say eternal value fits is because the goal of the podcast is not to argue about biblical truth. It's not about um, it's not about my version of Christianity being better than someone else's version of Christianity or being more biblically accurate. Um, it is at its core and throughout its limbs about helping people get saved. I'm truly less concerned with I'm truly less concerned with if you believe in the Trinity versus do you know Christ. Believing in the Trinity is a core doctrine of Christianity. That is something that can be discussed. And I believe that it's something that can be proven through the scripture. But knowing Jesus, the Trinity is something we can work on. Knowing Jesus is not something that we can just set to the side for later. You know what I mean? So, eternal value is something that I want to focus on with this podcast. I don't want to simply sit back and argue or debate topics. I want to help people understand concepts from the Bible, why they are important, and hopefully that leads some to wanting to understand Christ more. And if that's the case, if I could be a proper road sign for someone to understand Christ and to want to know Christ better or to want to come to Christ, that is far more of a win in my book compared to anything else. So, with that said, I enjoy doing this podcast. I enjoy being a part of this family, this team. And I'm going to continue doing the podcast, and my brother's going to be with me. And we're going to continue doing the podcast for as long as we can, for as long as this makes sense. All right. With that being said, again, eternal value is what we want to add to your life. Not that the podcast, will last forever. And what we say is, you know, always, the most accurate interpretation of things. Adding eternal value is by far um, the biggest thing on my mind when it comes to sharing Christ with people. And does this add eternal value to your soul? Does this add eternal value to your faith? Those are things that I'm concerned with. Um, and with that said, today we're going to be in Proverbs, which is an amazing book of knowledge. So Proverbs chapter 6, we're talking about 16 through 19. All right. I'm going to play the verse, I'm using the ESV version of the verse. Sometimes I'm known to switch between which versions I pull verses from, but ESV is, I have this great study Bible that's ESV. So I use that along with all the other things that I use to gain understanding. But this verse, or these verses, I should say, are the ones we're going to be focusing on for this Sunday. So let's take a listen to that, and then we'll jump right in from there. All right. There are 6 things that the Lord hates, 7 that are an abomination to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked plans, feet that make haste to run to evil, a false witness who breathes out lies, and one who sows discord among brothers. Okay. 6 things. 6 things that the Lord hates. 7 that are an abomination to him. 6 things the Lord hates, and 7 that are an abomination. So the way this verse is structured, um, it's not saying that there are 13 things. It's just saying that, he hates these things, and these things, like 7 of these things are an abomination to him. So I guess they added on a bonus thing at the end. Um, but the way it's worded is curious. I'd love to find out more about how it's worded. But as we start here, this first one we're going to go into. So verse 17 starts off with this list, right? This list of 6 to 7 things that the Lord hates and are an abomination to him. Haughty eyes. Haughty eyes is the first that's on the list. Haughty is arrogantly superior or disdainful, right? It's disdainful. It's showing contempt or a lack of respect, right? So, haughty eyes, showing contempt or lack of respect, arrogance, right? We all know somebody with an air about them that makes them seem bigger, larger than life, but not in a heroic kind of way, not in a respectable kind of way. But these are eyes that are arrogant, right? So we're talking here about the arrogance of people. We're talking here about the lack of respect that one has for another. And we all know that God does not like disrespect, right? We all know that one of Jesus's commandments toward us is to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. So this clearly is something that God does not and will not stand for, because our love should be towards our neighbor. And that same love that we have towards ourselves, the same protection, fight or flight instincts that we have towards ourselves, we should grant that towards those around us. Now, what do I mean by when I say the fight or flight? We all know what that is, right? The response that spares us in situations where we are in peril, we are in danger. The thought of humans is to self-preservation, right? And fight or flight is a part of self-preservation. But in saving ourselves, we should want to save those around us as well. And what more, like the way this ties in with the Bible, is what better way to save ourselves than to save those around us as well, right? If if it comes down to it, we are supposed to lay down our lives for those that we love. And if we love ourselves and we're commanded to love our neighbors as we love ourselves, then we should be laying down our lives for those around us as well. Right. So the second part of that is haughty eyes, which is the first, a lying tongue. Now, we all know, and we're all fully aware that God is not a God that will lie. He demands that we do not lie, that we tell the truth in every situation, whether the truth is painful, because sometimes it is, or the truth is soft, because sometimes it is, right? Truth being painful. Truth being painful is one of the biggest reasons why people lie. Oh, it was easier to tell them XYZ than to hurt their feelings. But in all honesty, wouldn't you rather your feelings hurt if you knew the truth? Because to live in deception, right? To live in deceit, convinced of a lie, can lead you to some really, really hard places. Because it's worse finding out later on that that lie was in place and you've been acting a fool this entire time. Think about when, God forbid, but when someone cheats on you, the deception that they go through and pull you into is much worse than simply finding out the truth, because now you have, especially if this person is in their so-called self-preservation state. I think of when people cheat, I think of them being in self-preservation mode, right? Because they're trying to preserve what they have because they know how good it is. They like their life as it is, but they feel, oh, I'm missing XYZ. I know I use that a lot. But in the idea of them missing XYZ, instead of presenting that to their significant other, they decide that, oh, I can just go grab this from the grocery store. Like that thought of, oh, I can just get this from this person and then come home and I'm good because I've got everything else at home. And that's a poor way to live. It is a poor and disgusting way to live. And that kind of lie drags everything in with it, because now you're still having those moments, those life moments that you have with your husband, with your wife. And you're having those moments and you're deceiving that person. So the happiness, the joy, the pain that you share, it all lays a heavy burden. Like it lays a heavy burden on all of these moments. And that carries, for the other person, it carries so much more weight. Because not only did you choose to lie to me in a poor situation, a poor life moment where things were bad, you also decided to carry that lie through and beyond into everything else. And it like anything poured into a cup of water will contaminate it, right? You can't pour, a teaspoon of bleach into a cup of water and act like it's not there. That bleach is present. You can't drop a couple of drops of ink into water. That ink is present. You can see it. You know what I mean? Like it contaminates the fluidity of whatever relationship you have. It contaminates business relationships. You lie about your intent in a business relationship. How can you be trusted? So lying obviously is one of those things that God does not stand for. And we should not either. We should not be a people who would rather lie to someone to preserve their feelings versus telling them the absolute truth. And the thing about the truth is that it is hard sometimes. The expression hit like a ton of bricks comes to mind. like a Mack truck comes to mind. Yeah, sometimes the truth does hit that hard, but the truth will always be the truth. Like the truth is never changing. It's not my truth. It's not your truth. Those are opinions. That's what they are. They're cleverly named opinions. It is just the truth, and the truth will be the truth forever. It won't change. The truth will be the truth. Pointing back at the Bible, Jesus saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life. God is love. These are truths. He is truth. So this is something that we know up and down that God does not tolerate. The next one, third on the list, hands that shed innocent blood, the taking of life. It made the 10 Commandments, top 10. Very certain it is important to God that we do not do this. Some would even question if God is allowed to do this, but God being set to a higher standard of rules, a higher standard of living, a higher standard of life. He is allowed to make the decision whether life is passed or it continues. That is God's decision. The Creator decides. And while death can be painful in many, many ways, with God, death is not final. It is not permanent. There is more to the story when death is concerned and you're speaking about God, but in human senses. We all know that hands that are swift to shed blood, especially nowadays, we see a lot of this going on. We see a lot of it. And it directly goes against what Jesus taught us, to love our neighbor as ourselves. You don't wish death upon yourself, then don't wish it upon anybody else. Don't go out and do that thing that causes people to lose their lives. We're supposed to cherish life, honor life at all levels. Love your neighbor as yourself. It means telling them the truth. It means not looking down on them from a position of superiority, right? And it means protecting that life because all life is sacred. All life should be protected. And that breaks off into a bunch of hard topics and a bunch of hard things. But on a day-to-day basis, we can practice these three things. We can live these three things out. We can stay away from these. You know, what's number 4? Let's jump into number 4. A heart that devises wicked plans. A heart that devises wicked plans. Back to what I was saying earlier about cheating, right? Before you get into the act of cheating, what is it? Before you actually make that call or send that text that sets up that date, that meeting, that correspondence with someone that you should not have given time to in the first place. What is it? It's an idea. It's an idea. It's a thought. And controlling thoughts are as hard as controlling the wind, right? You can't control the wind. It moves to and fro however it pleases. Thoughts can come in those patterns. Thoughts are just as wild. But devising wicked plans, you can't blame that on your brain, right? You can't blame that on your brain. But because the intent has to start somewhere, and the intent isn't in the brain. The intent of anything that we do isn't in the brain. The brain isn't the manufacturer of ideas. It is the place that you cultivate ideas. It is the place that you think through ideas, logic. But the birthplace of an idea, something that you are really into, something that you are really interested in, I beg you to think about it. Something you are really, 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 really interested in. The birthplace, the birthplace of that idea is not your mind. The birthplace of that idea is your heart, because it is a desire. It is a desire, and it comes from your heart. Your heart is the core of who you are. Out of your heart flows deceit, flows evil, it flows wickedness. And it is just as easy because it is our nature. It is our nature to do these things. It is our nature to self preserve. It is our nature to think of ourselves over others. It is the first and last thing that we think about. Us. Am I going to survive? Can I pay this? Can I do this? Oh, I could easily give to a charity. I could give to a homeless person at any given time. I need this for this. I need to do this for me. I need to. And then we make self larger than life. And self becomes the thing that blinds us from the charity and the beauty and love of people. Which is why this verse says, a heart that devises wicked plans. It's not saying that your heart has logic. It's saying that your plans, it's saying that your plans stem from your heart, because desire forms in the heart. Desire is not a brain thing. Oh, I just, you're thinking about it. You're planning it. You're looking at all the intricate details, but where did the desire come from? It came from out of your heart. What's the next one? Feet that make haste to run to evil. Now that that plan is formed, now that you've got the okay to go and cheat, to have this appointment, feet that are swift to run to evil, feet that make haste, haste, haste. Excessive speed or urgency. I like this idea. Let's go. I want to do that. Let's do this. The act of moving in a deceitful way is what this verse warns us about. 6 things that the Lord hates. 7 that are an abomination to him. Feet that make haste to run to evil. Oh, well, I'm just doing what I feel. I'm just living my life. Yeah, you are. You are absolutely doing what your nature will provide for you to do. You're following your instinct, you're following your heart, and your heart has led you to this weird place, and you bask in that place. The feelings, the emotion that follows, you are basking in the glow of this place, not knowing that this place is leading you to your downfall, not knowing that this place is evil. And that, in and of itself, brings us to our next one. A false witness who breathes out lies. A false witness. False witness, right? A witness, person who saw or who was there, right? But this verse speaks of a false witness, so a person who did not see, a person who is not there, who breathes out lies, a thing that God hates, right? This sounds like gossip to me. We all know backbiters and gossipers are not godly. People who sit around and talk about other people's business. It's not something that a godly person should entertain or do. Not even for a living, if you ask me. I don't care what the latest celebrity is doing. I don't care, what they're I don't care about these weird little details of their lives. Are they healthy? Are they okay? Are they doing good things for the world? Those are things that are important. But oh, so and so is dating this person and you don't like it. Oh, so and so shouldn't be wearing that and you don't like it. Oh, so and so is driving this and you don't like it. Like, these things are so unimportant. On a small scale, on a medium scale, grand scale, whatever. They're unimportant. But then you throw in lies. And now you have people believing things that did not happen, that are not real. And that is polluting the system. That is polluting someone's life. Telling lies about them, about situations that you were not privy to. This is one of the things, one of the biggest things that you find in society, television, even in church. And might I add, when you see these things in church, it's good that gossipers are there. It's good. It's good that people are sinful in church. Not in a fashion, let me be clear, not in a fashion where their sin carries them through their whole life in church. But church is a place for sick people so that they can get well. If you are thinking of going to church and you decide, hey, let me check out this church, let me see what this church has to offer, and you are not 100% sold on Christ, that is where you should be. We should pray for people who are in church, who gossip, who are in church, who drink, who are in church, who smoke, who are in church, who have sex out of wedlock, who are in church and do these things. We should pray for them. And if we see them stumbling, we should help them so that they can have a clarity of Christ, in Christ, so that they can be what Christ called them to be, right? Which brings us to our next point and our final point. And one who sows discord among the brothers, backbiting. So now you have lies, right? You have lies. You have a heart that does wicked. You have feet that are swift. You have eyes. And the funny thing about all of this, the funny thing about all of this is that this touches everything about us, right? Our eyes, our tongue, mouth, our hands, right? Our heart, what is in us, our heart. The Bible says that what goes into a man doesn't defile him, speaking of food. So the Bible's clear that there is no unclean food. So pork and bacon and all that kind of stuff, Christians can eat it. The Bible says, Jesus says, out of his own mouth. What goes into a man does not defile him, but what comes out of him, because what goes into a man goes in and passes through his body. But what comes out of a man comes out of his heart. It stems from the heart, which goes back to what I was saying earlier about the heart being the place, the birthplace of evil plans, the birthplace of evil ideas. You cultivate them in the mind, but the heart is where they stem from. So you have eyes, tongue, that's taste. You have hands, touch, heart, what's in you, your feet. You have false witness that breathes out lies. And then you have one who sows discord amongst the brothers. Gossip and backbiting. And these are the things that God hates. So can we do our best? Can we make a declaration that we will do everything in our efforts not to look down on people, not to lie to people, not to hurt or harm people, that we will pour into our hearts a good word, a good testimony, that we will dwell and meditate on good things, that we will be quick to help others rather than making haste to do harm to others, that we will speak good things about people when we hear bad, and that we will not talk badly about other people, that when we have nothing to say nice about them, just like we've heard so many different times, if I have nothing nice to say, I'm not going to say anything. We should do those things. We should make that declaration for ourselves and for others, because this is the way and we should walk in it, right? I know you hear that a lot here. That is our creed. This is the way that we should be. And if the Lord hates these things, then we should do these things, not just because they are morally sound, that we shouldn't. Because a lot of people like to view the Bible as some kind of moral work of fiction that just teaches us right from wrong and we should just be nice to everybody. That's not what the Bible is. These are things that God hates. And I wholeheartedly believe that we are fully capable of doing better to each other. And I think that we can do better for ourselves by doing better to each other. So if we're able to stick to this, we can be right in the eyes of the Lord. You know what I mean? On top of getting saved, we can be right in the eyes of the Lord. And with that, I appreciate you guys joining me for this Sunday, this edition of the Faded Podcast. I ask that you guys drop me some likes and some comments. Let me know what you think. Talk to me. Tell me what you need. Tell me how your week's gone. And I will do my best to respond as soon as I can see them. We're getting kind of busy over here on this side. But when we have that moment, we will check on you guys. All right. So I want you guys to be good, be safe, and be mindful of others. All right. Chill signing out. Take care, guys. I'll see you later this week.